there's been an annual theme for Black History Month since 1928 also. A lot of people don't know this. This year's annual theme is African Americans and the Arts. African Americans and the Arts. And I'm going to give you some information on that. Because for the most part, the way we commemorate, the way we celebrate Black History Month is wrong. And unfortunately, a lot of us haven't done the research, mean well, but haven't done the research to really understand it. I did the research. And I went to ASALH's website, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and researched the origins of Black History Month years ago. Plus, I talked to one of the past presidents as well, Dr. Darrell Scott of ASALH. Okay, so the father of Black history, the father of Black History Month is Dr. Carter Godwin Woodson, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And he was born December 19th, 1875, 10 years after slavery ended. He was born in Virginia. He died April 3rd, 1950. He wrote numerous books. His most well-known book would probably be The Miseducation of the Negro, which came out in 1933. Now, Dr. Woodson, when we look at why was Black History Month created, Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded what was known then as Negro History Week in 1926, okay, 1926. He explained the reason behind the celebration in a pamphlet widely distributed months before the first celebration. Well, before the first celebration was to take place during the second week in February 1926. Now, I've been to Black History Month celebrations, and people say, why we have the shortest month of the year? Okay, why we have the coldest month of the year? The reason why Black History Month is in February is because it specifically started the second week in February. It was held the second week in February. It started February 7th, 1926. Because the second week in February contained the birth dates of Frederick Douglass, February 14th, which most of us know as Valentine's Day, and Abraham Lincoln, February 12th. African Americans were having celebrations commemorating Frederick Douglass's birthday going back to the year after he died, when he died in 1895. So we were having celebrations in the African American community for Frederick Douglass for his birthday, and we were having celebrations in the African American community going back to the year after when President Abraham Lincoln is assassinated in April 1865. So we were having celebrations since basically Lincoln was assassinated also on his birth date of February 12th. So since there were already celebrations going on in the African American community surrounding these two men, Dr. Woodson put his new cultural celebration into that same period of time, because a lot of people were, having celebrations. They may be off work or whatever it is. This is going on, and so this is in 1926. Okay. Now, Dr. Woodson exclaimed that Blacks knew practically nothing about their history, and some of this is still true today. He ultimately believed that African Americans could benefit immensely from knowledge of their past and accomplishments of their ancestors. He added that race prejudice was the byproduct of whites' beliefs that Black people had not contributed anything of worth to world civilization. Okay. Now, Dr. Carter G. Woodson earned a PhD in American history in 1912 from Harvard University. He became the second African American to get a PhD from Harvard. The first was Dr. W.B. Du Bois in 1895. Woodson was the first of African slave ancestry because his parents were slaves, and Dr. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois was born to free parents. In 1915, so this is the 50th year anniversary of the end of slavery and the end of the Civil War. Dr. Carter G. Woodson attends a 3-week celebration, this symposium that takes place in Chicago, okay? And this is the 50th year anniversary of the Emancipation, not the 50th year anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, 50th year anniversary of Emancipation, I should say, Emancipation. Emancipation Proclamation was January 1st, 1863. So there's a 3-week symposium that takes place, and they have all these exhibits and is documenting the progress African Americans have made over those 50 years. And you have speeches given and things like this. And it's at the symposium that Dr. Carter G. Woodson gets the idea to create an organization dedicated to the study and the preservation and the documentation and the teaching of African American history as well as African history, because he didn't just deal with the contributions of African Americans here in the U.S., but worldwide, as well as on the continent of Africa. So he decides to create an organization to promote the scientific study of Black life and history, the scientific study of Black life and history. So this takes place on September 9th, 1915. He and 4 friends co-found the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History at Wabash YMCA there in Chicago, okay? In 1916, he creates the Journal of Negro Life and History, the Journal of Negro Life and History. And this was a journal dedicated to publishing the papers of African-American historians, because the white historical journals usually did not want to deal with the same topics that we wanted to deal with, or would not deal with those same topics the same way. So he understood we had to have our own infrastructure, okay? 1921, he creates Associated Publishers, Inc., which was a Black publishing company that he used to publish his books. And they also published textbooks for Black teachers to use as well to teach, Black children. Now, Dr. Carter G. Woodson argued that if the historical record was set straight, and that if the history of Black people were studied along with the achievements of others in schools, not only would Black youth develop a sense of pride and self-worth. Not only would Black youth develop a sense of pride and self-worth, but racism would also be abolished. And Dr. Woodson said the history of African Americans had to be taught in every school across the country, not just in schools where we were the majority of the population of the students. Okay, he understood it had to be taught in every school across the country. Now, Woodson concluded, quote, "Let truth destroy the dividing prejudice of nationality and teach universal love without distinction of race, merit, or rank, with sublime enthusiasm and heavenly vision of the great teacher. Let us help men rise above the race hate of their age unto the altruism of a rejuvenated universe." Now, Negro History Week was, as it was called in 1926, was the first major achievement in popularizing Black history or African American history, and was unique in that it focused on African American youth. Now, it wasn't only for African American youth, but there was a focus on our youth. Dr. Woodson realized that the miseducation of Black people began in their homes, in their communities, and in their elementary schools. Dr. Woodson's vision of Negro History Week was optimistic, strategic, and long-term. He wanted this modest week-long celebration to serve as a stepping stone toward the gradual introduction of Black history into the curricula of all levels of the U.S. educational system. He's saying this has to be taught in all schools across the country, as well as in colleges also. The reason why is because the way you treat a people is largely based upon what you think about a people. What you think about a people is based upon what you have been taught about a people. What you've been taught about a people is based upon everything you read, heard, and seen about a people. So if you go through 12 years of education and you get a high school diploma, and you're not required to learn the history of African Americans, but you're required to learn American history, world history, American government, things like this. When the history predominantly of white people is required for you to be able to graduate, to get a diploma, so you can go into the military, so you can get a job, so you can go to college. But the history of African Americans is not required to do the same thing. What you're tacitly saying is that these people's history is more important than these other people's history over here. And since people are a product of their history, then you're tacitly saying that white people have more value. White people are more important because you have to learn that history than African Americans are. Okay, so you have this tacit superiority and inferiority ingrained in the educational system based upon whose history is being taught. So Dr. Woodson understood this. Okay, let's continue. All right, how you all like this type of information? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast, and be sure to register for my online history course also. Now, Woodson's vision of Negro History Week was optimistic, strategic, and long-term. Dr. Woodson hoped that Negro History Week would evolve into Negro History Year. He hoped that Negro History Week would evolve into Negro History Year, as he affirmed from time to time. Woodson consistently instructed those observing the week that they needed. Now, everybody pay attention to this. Dr. Woodson consistently instructed those observing African American History Month, Negro History Week, that they needed to diligently prepare for the celebration months in advance. Diligently prepare for the celebration months in advance, and that after mid-February, because it started out as 1 week, after mid-February, they needed to continue acknowledging the role of African descendants in world history, not just in the United States of America, not just the first Negro to do this and the first Negro to do that, and Black people making inventions that make white folks' lives easier. That's not what Black History Month was about. That's what Negroes have reduced Black History Month to. They haven't gone and researched the original intent. Quote, Negro History Week should be a demonstration of what has been done in the study of the Negro during the year, and at the same time as a demonstration of greater things to be accomplished, end quote. Dr. Woodson instructed school teachers. Okay? Because what Woodson was saying is that you have to teach this history year round. You have to teach this history year round. That 1 week celebration in February, second week of February, African American students were supposed to demonstrate what they have been studying year round. Not this is the only month of the year where you teach Black history. Dr. Woodson said a subject which receives attention 1 week out of the 36 will not mean much to anyone. So the way a lot of this is being celebrated is totally backwards. And it comes from lack of research. People mean well. But I can tell you, I've been to a number of Black History Month celebrations. And people don't even mention the national annual theme. Don't even mention Dr. Carter G. Woodson. What the hell are you doing? This brother sacrificed his life, sacrificed his livelihood to finance the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. This brother never had children, never married. He said his work, basically his work was like his wife. Okay? And he knew he was not going to make a lot of money. He knew he was not going to get rich. But he was driven based upon the love of his people. And unfortunately, a lot of Black History Month celebrations, people mean well, but they do a disservice to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. This is why we have to do the research and honor this ancestor and honor other ancestors. And in honoring our ancestors, we honor ourselves. Read Dr. Pero Gaglo Dagbovi's book on Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson in Washington, D.C., the father of Black history. So the 100th anniversary of ASALH, which is now Association for the Study of African American Life and History, they had a celebration of the 100th anniversary here in Detroit at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. And Dr. Dagbovi was there doing a lecture and a book signing for his book. And I bought his book. His book is fantastic. I got a chance to meet him. Dr. Dagbovi is a history professor at Michigan State University. Also, I know Dr. Darrell Scott. You've seen Dr. Darrell Scott here on the African History Network show. Dr. Darrell Scott is a past president of the national chapter of ASALH, Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Okay, now, very quickly, because we're going to wrap this up. I'm not going to get through the whole presentation. We talked about some of this information in the class a couple weeks ago, but it's been a long day, and I just did an hour and a half with Robin Ruth Simmons. So 1915, you had the Birth of a Nation movie come out the same year that Association for the Study of Negro Life and History is founded. And this movie rejuvenated the Ku Klux Klan. This movie calls Race Riots in the Streets. It had dehumanizing images of African Americans, and it dealt with the period of time it dealt with was slavery, the Reconstruction era, and the Civil War era. Okay, and this movie rejuvenates the Ku Klux Klan because at the end of the movie, the Klan are the heroes. We boycotted against this movie. There's an article from theroot.com called How Black America Rallied to Stop the Racist Film, The Birth of a Nation. There's an article from March 1st, 2015. And I talk about how we used to know when we were being insulted. You know, we used to know when we were being insulted. And today, you know, we sit up here and listen to dehumanizing music, dehumanizing negative corporate controlled hip hop, etc. But read this article because African Americans like Charlotta Bass, who was the editor of the California Eagle newspaper, which was the oldest Black newspaper on the West Coast, and you had people like William Monroe Trotter up in Boston. They led protests. They led protests against this movie. Okay, there were protests in the streets, and even when the play "The Birth of a Nation" was playing in Philadelphia in 1906, we led protests against that. Okay, we used to know when we were being attacked. Now we sit up. Some of us sit up, listen to Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Simply Red. Sexy Red, Ruby Rose, Nicki Minaj. We listen to artists like Lil Wayne, Rick Ross. We listen to artists like The Baby, things like this. Negative corporate controlled hip hop. And Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion win a American Music Award for WAP. They perform WAP at the American Music Awards. Just all types of Simple Simon nonsense. And we're the only people who would tolerate something like this. I'm telling you now, no other ethnic group would tolerate buffoonery like this. And there are people being dehumanized. Okay, now we look at annual themes. Okay, then also the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, becomes adopted by the NAACP in 1919. This is 4 years after the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History is founded. It was written in 1899, 1900 by James Weldon Johnson, who just happened to be a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, my fraternity. So I dealt with this history before. So I have 2 broadcasts recently that we did talking about the history of the Black National Anthem. Read this article here, Lift Every Voice and Sing, the story behind the Black National Anthem that Beyonce sang. Okay, and let's see here. This year's annual theme. Now, this year's annual theme is African Americans and the arts. Okay. Some of the other annual themes for African American History Month, and they've had an annual theme since 1928. The theme, they have a write-up each year on it, an essay on it. It gives direction on how to have celebrations, the content to have in your celebrations, things like this. It gives you purpose. It gives you direction. 1928's annual theme was Civilization, a World Achievement. 1933, Ethiopia Meets Error and Truth. 1935, the Negro Achievements in Africa. 1936, African Background Outlined. 1960, Strengthening America through Education in Negro History and African Culture. 1971, African Civilization and Culture, a Worthy Historical Background. Go to asalh.org, asalh.org. Those are just a few. They list all of them there at the website. Okay. Other ethnic groups have their monthly cultural celebrations. Native Americans have it, Jewish Americans, Haitian Americans, etc. When you study the history of these, they all started before or after. They all started. Most of them started after 1976. 1976 is when Negro History Week became Black History Month, and was recognized nationwide. And President Gerald Ford did a proclamation recognizing it. Even though in Virginia, some of us had already started celebrating it for 1 month. Okay. Dr. Carter G. Woodson in Miseducation of the Negro said, when you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. You don't have to tell him this. You don't have to tell him, do not stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. So he's dealing with he was dealing with the programming in the educational system. Okay. This year's theme, African Americans and the arts. African American art. I will just look at the theme briefly. There's a 2-page write-up at Asalh's website. African American art is infused with African, Caribbean, and the Black American lived experiences in the fields of visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expression. The African American influence has been paramount. African American artists have used art to preserve history and community memory, as well as for empowerment. So this is not just about entertainment. Okay. Artistic and cultural movements such as the New Negro movement right after World War I ends in 1918. And you have the New Negro, which is a concept they will call race man. And this is a concept of dignity and pride, and being proud to be Black, being proud to be Negro at the time. Okay. And these brothers were coming back home and said that we want all of our rights now. We want all of our rights now. Okay. We're not going to deal with the segregation anymore, the lynchings. We want first-class citizenship. They said we fought for this country. We died for this country, and we want all of our rights now. Okay. So this was the New Negro movement. All right. For centuries, Western intellectuals denied or minimized the contributions of people of African descent to the arts as well as history, even as their artistry in many genres was mimicked and or stolen. However, we can still see the unbroken chain of Black art production from antiquity to the present, from Egypt or Kemet, across Africa, from Europe to the New World, prior to the American Revolution, which was 1775 to 1783. Enslaved Africans of the Low Country in South Carolina began their more than a 300-year tradition of making sweetgrass baskets, which separate the rice seed from its chaff, revealing their visual artistry via craft. Now, there were at least 262 skills, trades, and crafts that African people had in this country from 1619 to 1865. Okay. All right. So they go through and they talk about different genres of music and different genres of art from the 1960s to they talk about the 1920s and 30s, the Harlem Renaissance, the Black Renaissance or the Harlem Renaissance. They talk about people like James Reese, Europe, who he and the band in the 369th Regiment called the Harlem Hellfighters, they formed a band over in France and introduced jazz music to France. You have people like Langston Hughes and Josephine Baker, etc. Okay, they talk about the 1960s and the Black Arts Movement. People like Nikki Giovanni, Alvin Ailey, who creates the Alvin Ailey Dance Troupe. They talk about 1973 and the creation of hip hop as a culture, not the creation of rap. Rap existed before 1973, August 11, 1973, at a party in the Bronx that DJ Kool Herc was DJing at in Copeland Rock. They start this genre. 5 elements of hip hop are DJing, MCing, graffiti, breakdancing. They say beatboxing, but it's actually knowledge, because knowledge was part of hip hop. There are 5 elements of hip hop. So what they're introducing, some people dispute the date, is the culture of hip hop, not rap. Rap, you have the song Minnie the Moocher. Rap predates 1973. Okay, the recitation of lyrics over music, that predates 1973. Hip hop is a culture. Okay, Cab Calloway, Minnie the Moocher. All right. So then we look at Afrofuturism as well, and we look at people like Sun Ra and Janelle Monáe and Jimi Hendrix and the movie Black Panther that's dealing with Afrofuturism. Okay, so that gives us a synopsis of this year's annual theme of African Americans and the arts. All right, now, okay, so hopefully that helps you to shed some light there. Like I said, some people dispute the date, but hip hop is a culture, not a hip hop is more than just rap. And some people say that culture predated 1973. Okay, but you're dealing with 5 elements of hip hop. You're not just dealing with rap. All right, so look, that's going to do it for us. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Register for my online history class that we do normally on Saturdays, but this coming Saturday, I'm presenting to the Detroit Reparations Task Force. So our next class will be Sunday, March 3rd, 2024, 2 p.m. And we'll get the new flyer up. But click right here to register here for the class. Class is on sale, $80. Our lesson plan is here, so you can download the lesson plan and follow along in class also, okay? And you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. So all the people who are commenting here, and even the ones that don't know what they're talking about, you can support us also. We have to get out of here. Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda